What's up, everyone? Just letting everyone get on right now. Happy Halloween if you guys celebrate that. If not, it's cool. I was looking into that. They've been celebrating that for 2,000 years. It's supposed to be just like the changeover from harvest season in the beginning of winter. So it was a ritual they did 2,000 years ago. Apparently, the spirits, they said the air is the thinnest between that time. So they dressed up to kind of make bonfires, and then the traditions just went on. That wasn't even in the United States. It didn't hit the United States until the 19th century, where Scottish immigrants brought it in to North America. So if you celebrate Halloween, today we're going to be discussing OEM softwares over aftermarket scanners. So if you got an aftermarket scanner and you got check engine lights and you've been using this aftermarket scanner, this is something that I want to discuss today. Let me know where you're watching from, and if you got any questions, hit us up. Before we get started, wanted to cover a few things. Been trying to get back to everybody's comments from our last broadcast. I apologize, but just getting everything prepared for another broadcast sometimes is time consuming. But we got some questions and some comments that came on yesterday's broadcast, and I'm going to them now, and I wanted to cover those before we get started today. One of them was asking yesterday if you were joining us. Let's go into this main screen here. What's up, everyone? Hope everyone's doing well. Let me turn this background music down a little bit. Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me just fine? I got an earlier broadcast today, but you guys can replay it if you need to. But today we're going to be talking about what's better, OEM software over scanners. I'm going to discuss what OEM actually provides and why we use OEM. And there's just a little bit of confusion out there. And the reason why I like to cover this is because I know a lot of people are using scanners, and they may be using it because it's just somebody told them so they can keep on driving. But today I want to dive into that just a little bit deeper so that we can kind of understand what's the difference between OEM software and just generic scanners. And as I mentioned, before we start on today's show, I wanted to circle back around on why we don't work on. There was a question in yesterday's broadcast about why we don't work on deleted or anything that has any kind of modification to the after treatment system. Now, back before they were they were a lot strict and they were kind of going after shops, we did kind of work on them, but at the same time, everything was just new. So we were kind of just trying to work on and helping customers out to keep their trucks running. What we learned, and I'm sure a lot of the shops went through the same phase, is if you get to a point and when it comes to troubleshooting a problem, and if you're familiar with how these hack deletes are done, as I mentioned before, they're eliminating sections of the ECM that cannot read either the ACM or the CPC, not reading after treatment system sensors. Now, it also will remove some steps in there where the software is not able to recognize what's going on with the truck. Now, why is this important? It's important because when you go into troubleshooting any unit, especially modern trucks, troubleshooting, it relies a lot on the computer. And I know there's a lot of old schools out there that was like, oh, if you're a real mechanic, doesn't need a computer. But no, you do, because nowadays everything is just as I commented in yesterday's broadcast, it's not just a mechanical engine anymore. It's a mechanical being ran by electronics. So it's a combination. So being able to understand the electronic side of the engines is very crucial when it comes to troubleshooting. So when we're dealing with a truck that's deleted and that has sensors canceled, that has files removed from the ECM, and we go into a low power complaint, which is most of the time we started to see people come in with low power complaints. And what happens is either you get a burnt valve, scuff liner, because of the overfueling, the tuning is not correct. It's not precise for that particular engine setup. So you start having problems. You start having burnt valves, low power. So when you go to start troubleshooting these issues, it can just be a revolving door, because you don't have the correct information, because some of the software has been deleted. So you don't have all the troubleshooting information that's needed. So it can make it very complicated. So that's one of the main reasons why we stopped working on anything that has modifications or any deletes, because of the complications of low power complaints. And we just don't want to take the customer down that path where they decide, well, I want it to run right again. Let's go back and not delete it and replace CPCs and replacing ECMs, and it can just get really costly, and there's still not 100% chance that truck is going to run like it used to. Yeah, we're going to be getting into the main subject today, subject matter. I saw the comment that popped up. He said he changed the sensor and reprogrammed the sensor. So that's some of these scanners. I don't want to be really advocates on the scanners, so let's get started on why. And I started kind of going off with the troubleshooting, because whenever someone asked about why aren't we working on trucks that have been deleted, it just makes it a lot more complicated when it comes to troubleshooting. And with troubleshooting, there's a lot of things that go into troubleshooting. So we try to follow outlines when we come to troubleshooting trucks, just so that we don't overlook anything. There's just a lot that can go into troubleshooting. And as I mentioned yesterday, is when you're looking at troubleshooting techniques and procedures, a lot of time you're going to listen to what the driver has to say. A lot of times when these complaints are coming up, or these reports or concerns, any kind of noises, any kind of irregularities that are happening on the truck, is definitely going to be recognized by the driver faster than the driver, more detailed by the driver. So getting this information from the driver is important. And I'm going to be getting over to the reason why OEM software is, because if we're talking about troubleshooting now, scanners are not going to have troubleshooting procedures. That's one thing that's going to be very, very different between the two. With diagnosing these trucks, it's become more evolved. It's just become more complicated. So that's why following procedures is very important. Extracting information from the driver, understanding what their complaints are. If it's not just an after treatment fault, then we need to look into other things. With the scanner, what I wanted to mention with scanners, and I'll jump to that quickly on why scanners aren't good. Because what a scanner is going to do is basically you're just going to be resetting the code on this without actually addressing the root cause. So that's really why you don't want to keep using scanners, because over time the issue is still there. It's still an underlying problem that needs to be fixed. So the code more than likely is going to reappear, and it's just going to keep leading to repeat breakdowns and performance issues. The truck may run fine temporarily, but the issue will come back, and often more severe, and it just ends up causing you more downtime. So this is one reason why scanners aren't recommended. Ignoring the root cause can cause strain on other components. For instance, resetting the codes related to an emissions issue without resolving it may cause after treatment systems to clog, which can damage the engine. So this is another reason why I don't recommend scanners, because they're being used just to kind of clear codes so you can keep on going. Continuously clearing codes without addressing issues may lead to more expensive or extensive costly repairs. As I mentioned, if you have a filter that's clogged and that it's throwing a code, but instead of you bringing into and getting the filter actually replaced, you're resetting the code over and over and over. What you're going to end up doing is soot packing that filter, that DPF, and once that's clogged, of course the DLC gets clogged as well. So then at that point you're gonna end up replacing the DLC. You know what? I completely forgot about today's video. Let's take a break and watch this video. I made this video a long time ago when I was recording with a buddy of mine. If he's still doing YouTube videos now. Shout out to Trey Driver. It was his idea to shoot this video. If you guys are watching, it's kind of just a skit. It's just like I was hesitant whether or not I even wanted to play it. I was hesitant. I didn't know if I do want to play it. I guess we'll go ahead and play it. Here we go. Okay, guys. I'll see you guys on Monday. What is that? Like I said, this is one of my buddy's ideas. We were joking around back then. This is at a different shop. Hey. We're closed. Come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow, maybe we can help. Yeah, I know that was pretty cheesy, but I just wanted to share that it's Halloween. I wanted to share that. It was my buddy's idea. I usually don't like taking stuff out of being professional, but we were just having a good time. That was years ago. Back to our live. Thought that was just a quick celebration of Christmas. I'm sorry, Halloween. Sorry about that. Christmas is already around the corner. Can you believe it? So back to these scanners and why we don't recommend using scanners. I know that most of you guys are probably going to own scanners already. I was looking at some of the comments on one of the videos that I did about OEM. Now, OEM software is just going to give you more in-depth information. It really just kind of depends on if you're really going to take troubleshooting procedure or troubleshooting serious. If you're looking into just scanning codes and getting a description on the code and not really understanding the correct troubleshooting procedures, and just by pulling a scanner, it's not going to give you a lot of information. Another thing I want to mention with OEM scanners over OEM software over aftermarket scanners is warranty. Nowadays, warranty is just not being covered by a lot of different jobs. It's just warranties they look at different warranties. Say for example, even with drive lines, if you have a truck that has a scanner on it and you're actually making more horsepower than what the truck is or what the drivetrain is made for, then you're risking also more breakdowns as well. You can have a non-emissions truck with a scanner or a tuner on it that's causing more horsepower, and when they design these trucks, we talked about this yesterday, there's a lot of engineers involved. They're not going to over exceed the specs on when they build these trucks. If they have a truck or an engine that's producing so much torque, they're not going to put a transmission and a drive line on there that can withhold or withstand a lot more than what that spec is doing. You know, they're not going to put it for, oh, well, this truck can create even more torque if it wanted to, and the drivetrain is going to be okay. No, usually they spec everything out with the drivetrain only taking what the engine was coming off the assembly line producing. So if you go with a tuner, anything like that that's going to increase the output of that engine, then you can risk breakdown. So this is another reason why warranty comes in place, and also why those particular, that's an actual tuner that would be considered a tuner. But I know that these tuners are also used for scanning as well. So this is why it's very important to keep up with the proper diagnosing procedures, because these scanners can kind of lead you the wrong way. I see a lot of people just swapping parts whenever they're calling in. It's like, hey, well, we did this. The scanner said this. We replaced these parts and these other parts, but the code is still coming back. So that time that you spend swapping these parts can be spent by using a proper troubleshooter that can understand what's going on with your truck and try to give you a better diagnosis. We look into the history of the truck. We look into the different reports that the different manufacturers are able to pull up, which the scanners aren't able to look up these items. They're not able to look up how much percentage the truck has been idling at a certain amount of time. We could look at a year and see how much idling the truck has compared to complete regenerations, if regenerations aren't being completed. All this information is very useful, and it's extracted with OEM software. And this is why I keep bringing this up, OEM over aftermarket scanners. And some people are like, hey, well, you know what? There's this, blah, blah, blah diesel laptop, whatever it's called. That's probably their name, but I'm not trying to throw people's name out there. These particular softwares are not connected to the servers of the manufacturers. So if you're trying to save money by using one of these aftermarket software, because I even see that they come in packages where, oh, you buy the package and you're able to access all trucks. You got to understand there's a lot of different updates that get released by the manufacturers that are being downloaded from the servers to the actual users. This is why a lot of hackers can't connect to the internet. They can't use that software or whatever programs that they have to access your computers. Those hackers cannot hook up that computer to a server. If they ever hook that up to a server, then their software would just be burnt. So that's why it's another just reason why these deletes can be a little bit challenging, because you don't know how long they're going to last. It's really just a gamble, and you don't know if it's how healthy it is for your engine, because as I mentioned in our other broadcast, is that they're going to have these older files that get written over these newer files, eliminate other files that aren't accessible, troubleshooting files, sensor files, all these different files that get removed and rewritten, increasing fuel into the cylinder, creating more heat, creating more wear. Yes, you're going to have power, and you're going to have this temporary power, but what I'm talking about is the long run. We talked about how the development of diesel engines have changed from durability to mostly efficiency. So they're even becoming a little bit, it sucks to say, but they've become a little bit delicate. They have become a little bit delicate, and it sucks. And that's why maintenance is even more important. And following these proper troubleshooting procedures, how important all this is. This is why I'm here to try to share these information with you, because I don't want people just to. I see a lot of misinformation. People just run out there and they're just, hey, the scanner, that's all you need. And then the scanner is going to tell you this. The scanner is going to tell you very limited information. Very limited information. It's not going to give you live data. It's not going to give you history of how the truck is being used, so you can kind of get a better understanding. Maybe I should change how I'm idling this truck. Maybe I should change how I'm sitting around in this truck, because I can see how much I am idling. Some of those error codes impact the fuel injection as well, as I mentioned before. Timing, Turbo pressure resetting without fixing can hurt performance and fuel economy. This is what these scanners will do. They would just reset without fixing problems and end up creating more problems. Your fuel efficiency starts to decrease. If this is anything that rings a bell, make sure to give us a shout. We can help you out. We're not trying to scare you. We're just trying to educate everyone. But give us a shout, 972-225-3017. We're just south of Interstate 20. I was going to bring up a map is what I was thinking about. Off of Bonneview Road. Let me bring up a map. TAT Express. Look us up. Let me see if I can get, I got a map here. So you can kind of see where we're at. If you're in the Dallas area and you're passing through 20, Fort Worth, we're right in that area. A couple of fuel stations really close to us. Let's see if I can give you an overview here. So if you're coming through Dallas, that's where we're at here. TAT Express off of Interstate 20. So if you're coming through Dallas, don't worry. We're not actually in central Dallas. We're not in central Dallas. Just realized there was a heart there. But anyway, back over here. So we're right in that DFW area. Let me pull that back up. Give us a shout. You got some questions? Let me share a different map. There we go. This one is not showing. So anyway, give us a shout, 972-225-3017. Be more than happy to give you a hand. Let me get to some of these questions. Have a nice day. Una pregunta, hermano. Dígame. Oh man, I'm not even going to get to that question. Serious questions, please. Serious questions. Serious questions, please. Okay, let's get back on the task here. We talked about void and warranty, things that happen if you use these scanners. Now, we talked about code. Now, access to full data and codes, explanation of codes, description of the types of codes trucks can throw, generic versus manufactured specific codes. Now, a scanner is not going to give you specific code readouts and specific code details. Okay, you have to look that up online. You're fumbling through different links. You don't know what is up to date, what's not up to date. This is why I don't recommend you use a scanner, because they're just the limited amount of information. When you deal with manufacturer software, there are some people that threw some crazy numbers out there. You can get the basic troubleshooting software. You would have to get a computer so that you're able to read this software or read these codes and be able to troubleshoot them. It really just depends on what you're going to be using the scanners or the software for. Now, I don't really recommend scanners. I keep saying scanners just because we're talking about the two different ones, but I do not recommend scanners. I really do recommend the OEM software. And I know you guys are, oh, it's pricey, it's this and that. That's why I said if you're gonna take it serious, if you're gonna take troubleshooting serious, then I definitely would go with OEM software. If you're not looking, you're just trying to clear codes, you're gonna end up costing more money to your customer because you're not fixing the root cause. Then definitely is going to be something you're going to end up looking to invest in. It's not is whether or not you're going to do it or not. And I'm just talking from experience. I have bought, I've used different ones before. I didn't start off with OEM software from the beginning. I understand that it's not cheap. You want to look for a route that can probably get you a little bit easier, something to save you some money. But what I'm getting at is, it's not gonna, if you're gonna stay in troubleshooting for a long period of time, it's not that type of those types of scanners are just not gonna work for you. Not gonna work. OEM software is just superior, super superior. Camera cut off on us. TAT Express, hit us up. Okay, where can you buy OEM? OEM is going to be online. That's going to be the OEM for Detroit is going to be Triple DL is the short version of it. Now there may be some it's diagnostic link. You can look it up online. That's going to be able to give you all the information that you're going to be able to access. And it's going to be the same with each model. Volvo has their own as well. Volvo is called Tech Tool. Volvo is a little bit more complicated, I guess, because it's maybe they're European developers. I don't know. The software is a little bit, it can freeze up on you, so you might have to reset it. But this is another reason why I prefer OEM software over aftermarket scanners, because a laptop is going to be able to give you real-time information, real live information. So if you're doing some of the tests that we're able to do are like real-time tests where we're able to get real-time information, whether it's a cylinder balance test, where a cylinder balance test is basically just going to run a balance and see how much fuel is going into each cylinder. Now, the way that works is an engine is going to either put fuel in or remove fuel in each cylinder to balance the engine out. And that's what the computer does in real time. So when you're doing a balance test and you're monitoring a balance test, there's going to be thresholds on how much fuel can be added and how much fuel needs to be removed. As I mentioned, the way that the ECM is balancing the engine out is by removing or putting more fuel to balance each cylinder out. All this is happening real time, and this is really fast. I mean, it's not like 1, 2, 3. No, this is very fast, very fast. This is why your engine is spinning at 500-600 RPMs at idle. I mean, that's 500 rotations a minute at idle. So this is happening very fast. So computers, ECMs, they're all communicating and getting this information in real time. So OEM software over a scanner is just way superior. There's no comparison. There's no comparison. A scanner is gonna just kind of cause you to have more problems because you're just deleting the code. You're not fixing the root cause of the problem. You're kind of guessing about what the problem is. And with a OEM software, if you're doing a regen, you're getting real-time information. Idle balance tests, real-time information. There's different tests for different manufacturers. On Insight has what they call a injector performance test. So does Detroit. Detroit has injector performance tests. These tests we incorporate into our procedures when we do any kind of repairs that deal with an injection system or the fuel system, any kind of mechanical system. We'll run a performance injection test we'll run a any kind of injector test to kind of make sure that everything's running correctly, because not every time we're going to be able to put those trucks into the same conditions, up to 95 to 100% load conditions with like a trailer going uphill, with headwind. This is a lot of factors that would cause an engine to run at higher loads. But running these tests kind of help us look at this. Hey, this looks like everything's working correctly. This is why, as I mentioned, OEM software over scanners every day. If you're taking it serious, then definitely get an OEM. I would go OEM over any day. But I understand. Especially so I don't mean to circle back too far, but when we first started talking about the emissions control and how they've changed the development of diesel engines, when we talk about when the DD15 first came out and started using amplified common rail system. Now they weren't the first ones to use a high pressure fuel rail. They used it in the past, but they really were the first ones to develop the injection, the multi-stage injection process, where as the piston's coming up in the combustion stage, it gradually injects the fuel instead of injecting it all at once when the piston's at its top, at a single burst, and it kind of sprays it, which creates a cleaner burst. So when you start dealing with hack deletes and you start dealing with people rewriting files, and this is the stuff that they'll change how much fuel is being injected into that cylinder, which will give you more power right up front. Now these damages on these engines do not happen right away. If you deleted your engine, it's not going to be like, oh, tomorrow my truck's going to be messed up. It happens over time. Yeah, most of the time you will get better performance, and you're not keeping up with the after treatment system because it's not there anymore. But in the long run is when we start seeing problems. So when you're dealing with fuel pressure that's up, and this is not like, this fuel pressure is like 35,000 psi. That's very, very high fuel pressure. There's a lot of things that can happen when you're dealing with that high of fuel pressure. So OEM, I still talk about this. I talk about the full access on the data. You can get up-to-date diagnostics. You're never really going to connect a scanner. So updated information is just non-existent. If there are updated troubleshooting procedures or updated steps, then you're just not going to be aware of them if you're using if you're using a scanner as your primary troubleshooting tool. This is why they actually charge you, to access this software, to access this more detailed, and it's manufacturer specific codes that often provide you with like more precise information. It's not like the aftermarket scanner is going to be super limited on what it can actually give you, what information it can give you. We talked about the advanced diagnostic capabilities of OEM software. We talked about the injection test. A lot of this saves time. When I discussed proper troubleshooting procedure techniques, now you want to get the facts concerning the complaint. Now you want to analyze the problem thoroughly, relate the symptoms to a basic engine system component, like consider recent maintenance, repair actions that can relate to that complaint. Double check, before beginning any disassembly. Whenever you're troubleshooting, we usually try to use troubleshooting charts, and we use codes to kind of help it easier, just to make the tests or the troubleshooting easier, because you want to go with the easiest stuff first, and you don't want to break open the engine just right away. That's just awful practice. If you guys are looking for a shop, give us a shout, 972-225-3017. We're located off of Interstate 20, just south of 20 off of Bonneview Road behind the TA. If you're rolling through Dallas, give us a shout. Right now, we can get you in and out. So even if it's just basic maintenance, if you guys are running a fleet, we offer pickup as well. We work on medium and light duty diesel engines. We also work on RVs. If you're looking for an inspection, give us a shout. We use all OEM softwares, OEM parts, manufacturer specifications. We don't take shortcuts or anything like that. Now, when it comes to troubleshooting, you want to look for the easiest repairs are done first. All generic solutions are designed. I was reading on this particular steps on troubleshooting, but troubleshooting, now sometimes you're not always going to get a code. We had an issue come in before where not every time you'll get code. So that's whenever we really start talking to the driver and getting some information to the driver, because the drivers can explain a lot when it comes to troubleshooting. Now, whether you're using OEM software or as I mentioned before, aftermarket scanners, you're not going to have access to this type of breakdowns. Some of the troubleshooting forms, for example, this troubleshooting license here holds a customer complaint form, which it helps you become a little bit more organized whenever you are troubleshooting these trucks, because we get a lot of troubleshooting jobs in our shop. So we have to come into it. We're just basically just processing them in, trying to get everything checked off, because if you troubleshoot something over and over and over and you start seeing a pattern, it becomes a little bit easier. And as I mentioned, sometimes you want to go to try to fix the easiest problem first. Not all the time you want to jump into the biggest problem and start opening up an engine right away. Shout out to everybody that's joined us today. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you got any questions about your truck, hit us up in the comment section. If you want to share any information, if you're using a scanner and you want to share that, hey, my scanner has been working just fine, and you don't know what you're talking about most of the time, give us a shout, 972-225-3017. Now, the software updates that happen, you have to have licenses to be able to do software updates. Now, with all these different changes that are going on, software updates are becoming more common as well. It's just like a regular PC or a computer. If you have a computer that's not running efficiently, sometimes it needs an update. This is starting to become more and more common. So with a scanner, you're not able to do any kind of updates. As I mentioned before, not all the time you can connect to the internet and be able to connect to the servers. Now, even with these other big companies that offer the bundle packages with all the software, the OEM softwares, you got to understand they have to connect to their servers, connect to the actual OEM servers, and rewrite whatever new information is being released, and then rewrite it and put it into their servers. So you're not getting real-time updates. This is why the manufacturers offer these licenses and these channels, so that you can able to get this information. Just another reason why OEM software is better over aftermarket. Staying up to date is very important, especially with these diagnosing procedures. When I was talking about the driver complaint form, I kind of want to go over this driver complaint form so that maybe you guys, if you are a driver or you're a technician, maybe this information can be helpful for you. So we'll go through the complaint form here. Let me know if you guys use a specific description on when you have issues with your truck. It says, describe the problem or complaint, symptoms of the problem or complaint. When cranking, does it crank too slowly? Does it crank okay? This would be cranking issues. Does it starts then dies? Idle RPM is running. Idle RPM is rough when engine is cold. That's going to be not too out of the ordinary. Idle, depending on how rough it is. Diesel engines actually have, they run off of a, they don't run off of a spark plug, so they use heat. It's just the heat of the compressed air to ignite the fuel. Okay, and then there's a section here that asks questions when you're driving. Does the misses or hesitate during acceleration? Misses or hesitation during deacceleration? Stalls or dies during acceleration? Stalls or dies during deacceleration? Smoke, black, white, low power, unusual engine behavior. So these are all questions to be notated. When do you notice a problem or complaint occurring? When the engine conditions are cold, normal, hot, all temperatures. See, this type of information kind of helps us pinpoint. And the troubleshooting overview is going to just kind of help us get into a tree and kind of eliminate a lot of things. Because as you can imagine, there's just so much to consider when you are troubleshooting engine components. When is the engine, or when the engine is at blank RPMs, the tachometer. So this is just kind of making sure everything is in line. Weather conditions. Guys, we got cold weather coming in, so make sure you guys are getting your trucks ready for the winter. That's getting a coolant flush. Making sure you have everything in your truck that you need. Checking those batteries. All it takes is that one cold front they hit, and if you got some bad batteries that are hanging on, that are barely hanging on, it's definitely gonna end up killing those batteries once we have one cold evening, one cold night. Accelerating, decelerating. So whenever we look at trucks or any engines, when you accelerate it and decelerate it, you kind of can see, you want to listen for just a smoothness. When you're accelerating, you want to hear that acceleration go up. When you let off of it, you want to make sure it comes down, no misses. No misfires or any kind of irregular. You want it kind of sounding very smooth whenever you're listening to your engine. Do you have issues when you're climbing a grade, a hill? Do you have issues downhill, braking, unloading, loaded, or unloaded or loaded? More than likely, if you're going to have engine issues, you're going to feel it more while it's loaded. That's when you're really putting a strain on that engine. How did the problem occur? Suddenly or gradually? Be honest about these drivers whenever sometimes whenever, it just happened out of the blue. But if it's something you've been patching along, you've been using a scanner to bypass it or keep resetting the codes, and you're not being honest about that would make the troubleshooting more complicated for the technician as well. And what hours or mileage do the problems begin? Okay, some of these could be intermitting fault questions. If you have any repairs after any problems after an engine repair, this is very common. Don't beat your mechanic up about this. This is very common. These trucks have, if you're dealing with any kind of major maintenance or major repairs, you got to understand it. These trucks have never been open before. They've never been open since they've been manufactured. So you got a truck that's 500,000 miles, and you're disassembling the side of the engine. There's a lot of things that come off that need to be taken off for accessibility purposes. A lot of stuff is reused. Mostly the gaskets are replaced. Not every time the customer wants to replace all the hoses, Although we do recommend most hoses get replaced on any kind of coolant repair that's over 500,000 miles. If you do any kind of coolant repair, we would recommend replacing coolant hoses, because usually around that time when those hoses get all crusted and old, they start leaking all around the same time. So if you have it in the truck and you have the truck already in the shop already, go ahead and get that looked at and get that replaced. Shout out to everybody that's joined us this evening. I know this is an early broadcast. It looks like the evening broadcasts have a lot more participants, but definitely have the playback. Maybe tomorrow we'll go out a little bit later, and we'll have a broadcast a little bit later. I know people are still just getting off work. Either way, I'll still try to get back to your questions from yesterday. The guy about not working on deletes. I hope I was able to answer that question for you. Let me know where you're watching from. Yeah, it looks like our evening broadcast drives a little bit more. If you got any questions about your truck, how to choose the interface, most of the time when you're looking at the OEM software, the only one that's going to work with that, and let me show you here. These are the cables, but you're going to work with a they always update it, but I'll pull this one up here. So share screen. This is what you're going to buy. They offer the wireless one as well, but I wouldn't go wireless whenever you're dealing with trying to get that real-time data. Hard wire is going to be the best when you want. I mean, it's just a lot faster. Sometimes you can have some glitches when it comes to when you're running a wireless, or you have delays as well. But this one looks like the newer one. This one's $800. I know it's not cheap, but it just depends on how serious you are getting into troubleshooting. Now, this comes with the adapter. This doesn't include a laptop. I know that it looks pricey. Everything's like, whoa, I'd rather just get the scanner. But this is why some shops do it, some shops don't. I would deal with the shops that have all this equipment. Even the hackers they have to buy this to be able to hook onto the ECM. And I'm not advocating hacks. Do not do hacks. They do not work out for the long run. No matter what you hear out there, they might be some lucky guys, but risking a modern truck, these newer engines are just really designed not to run on modified tunes, and the tunes that they use to put on these are just outdated. They're super outdated. So this is what you would use. Also, OEM software is going to allow you to change parameters, speed limits. Let's see that you can run this on iOS or Android. Speed limits, not that you guys need to go any faster. Some of you guys are already going too fast. But OEM software is going to allow you to do all these type of things, and that's kind of why we use them. Also with brake system as well, we have a license with as well with Bendex, as well with transmissions as Eaton as well, so that we can kind of stay up to date with everything. So if you are looking for a troubleshooting shop, give us a shout. If you got a problem, you can't get it figured out, 972-225-3017. Another reason why we went a little bit earlier today, I was just trying to get keep some energy up for these broadcasts. Looks like we've already been on for an hour. How quick does that happen? Very quickly. I covered mostly what I wanted to cover today. I wanted to talk about how OEM software generally is going to outperform the aftermarket scanners on semi-truck diagnosis. If you are going to invest in it, make sure to invest in quality diagnostics tools if you're going to take this serious about truck maintenance. If you want to outsource it, give us a shout, 972-225-3017. We already have all this equipment in place. We already are very, very informed and educated about the procedures in place. So I just wanted to keep you guys informed about the difference between these scanners, if you are using those scanners and running them just by deleting the codes and not really fixing that root problem. Is going to cause you some problems. Be sure to hit us up in the comments if you want to share your experience. I'll cover this last comment before we wrap it up. What do you say about the D13 470 or the D15 400? I'm trying to buy a new truck and I'll find them both for the same price, and I do flatbed. What do you recommend? A D13 or a D15. The D13 looks like it's got a little bit more horsepower. You're pulling flatbed. So what type of truck is the flatbed? Because flatbed, sometimes you're going to go off road, and Volvos are a little bit low. So they got a lot of plastic, a lot of fairings. So keep that in mind. Anytime you're going to be buying a truck, flatbeds are going to be delivering to construction sites. Some of it could be off-road. So I would work with something. The horsepower is nice. I like the horsepower, but if it's in a Volvo chassis, just be cautious about how low it is, because you don't want to start busting up fenders and plastic on those Volvos. It gets really expensive. But thank you for that question. Appreciate everyone that's joined us this evening. If you're in the DFW area and you're looking for a solid shop, give us a shout, 972-225-3017. I'm going to wrap this live broadcast up. I hope you were able to take some information out of this babbling that I went on for about an hour. I hope you were able to get some information, extract something out of it, something useful. If not, if you don't want to try to figure out troubleshooting on this own, give us a shout, 972-225-3017. We'll be more than happy to help you. Freightliner Cascadia. Freightliner is going to be a little bit higher off the ground compared to a Volvo. Volvo is going to be a lot lower to the ground. And if you're, like I mentioned, if you're doing flatbed, keep that in mind. Appreciate that question, Empower. Thanks for everyone that's joined us this evening. Until next time, you be safe out there, be patient, and we'll see you next time.